Mount Fuji stands as Japan's most famous landmark, rising 12,389 feet above sea level on the island of Honshu. Located about 60 miles southwest of Tokyo, this perfectly shaped volcano sits on the border between Shizuoka and Yamanashi prefectures. The mountain dominates the landscape for miles around, and on clear days, you can see its snow-capped peak from the capital city itself. Mount Fuji isn't just a mountain, it's a sacred symbol that has shaped Japanese culture, art, and religion for over 1,000 years. The story of Mount Fuji begins around 100,000 years ago when volcanic activity first started building what would become Japan's tallest peak. The current cone shape formed about 10,000 years ago through repeated eruptions. The last major eruption happened in 1707, during what's called the Edo period, when ash fell as far as Tokyo, which was then called Edo. Since then, the volcano has remained quiet, but scientists still consider it active and monitor it carefully for any signs of future activity. Standing before Mount Fuji today, it's hard to imagine the violent forces that created this seemingly peaceful giant. The mountain we see now is actually built on top of two older volcanoes called Komatake and Ashitaka. Over thousands of years, lava flows and ash deposits from countless eruptions layered on top of each other, creating the classic cone shape that makes Fuji so recognizable around the world. The Japanese have always seen Mount Fuji as more than just a mountain. They call it Fuji-san, adding the respectful suffix that shows their deep reverence for this natural wonder. Long before Buddhism came to Japan, the original Shinto religion already considered the mountain sacred. Ancient people believed that powerful spirits called kami lived inside the volcano, controlling its eruptions and the fertility of the surrounding land. The name Fuji itself has several possible meanings, though scholars still debate the true origin. Some think it comes from an old Japanese word meaning fire, while others believe it relates to the Ainu people's word for goddess of fire. What everyone agrees on is that the mountain has been called Fuji for at least 1,300 years, appearing in some of Japan's oldest written records. During the Heian period, which lasted from 794 to 1185, Mount Fuji began appearing in Japanese literature and poetry. The famous writer Murasaki Shikibu mentioned the mountain in The Tale of Genji, one of the world's first novels. Poets wrote countless verses about Fuji's beauty, comparing its snow-covered peak to white silk or describing how its reflection shimmered in nearby lakes. But it wasn't just writers who fell in love with Mount Fuji. Artists began painting and drawing the mountain, though it would be centuries before the most famous artistic works appeared. The mountain's perfect triangular shape made it an ideal subject for art, symbolizing stability, strength, and natural beauty. Religious pilgrims started climbing Mount Fuji over 1,000 years ago, but it wasn't easy or safe. The mountain's steep slopes, unpredictable weather, and loose volcanic rock made every journey dangerous. Many climbers didn't make it to the top, and some never made it back down. Despite these risks, people kept coming, driven by their belief that reaching the summit would bring them closer to the divine. For centuries, women weren't allowed to climb Mount Fuji. Religious leaders believed that the mountain's kami were female spirits who would become jealous of human women. This ban lasted until 1872, when the Meiji government officially opened the mountain to everyone. The first recorded woman to reach the summit was probably Lady Tatsu, though some records suggest other women may have climbed in secret earlier. The most famous artistic celebration of Mount Fuji came from Katsushika Hokusai, who created his series 36 Views of Mount Fuji in the 1830s. The most well-known image from this series shows a giant wave about to crash down, with Mount Fuji sitting calmly in the background. This woodblock print, called The Great Wave off Kanagawa, became one of the most recognized pieces of art in the world, spreading Mount Fuji's image far beyond Japan's borders. Hokusai's work showed Mount Fuji from many different angles and in various weather conditions. Some prints showed the mountain at sunrise, others at sunset. Some featured Fuji reflected in lakes, while others showed it looming over busy towns and peaceful countryside. Through these images, people around the world got their first real look at Japan's sacred mountain. The area around Mount Fuji is known as the Fuji Five Lakes region, named after the bodies of water that formed from ancient lava flows. Lake Kawaguchi, Lake Yamanaka, Lake Sai, Lake Motosu, and Lake Shoji each offer different views of the mountain. Lake Kawaguchi is the most popular with visitors because it provides clear reflections of Fuji on calm days, creating stunning mirror images that photographers love to capture. These lakes aren't just beautiful, they're also important for the millions of people who live in the Tokyo area. The water that falls on Mount Fuji as rain and snow filters through layers of volcanic rock, creating some of the purest groundwater in Japan. This natural filtration system provides drinking water for countless communities and feeds the springs that bubble up around the mountain's base. Mount Fuji's influence on Japanese culture grew even stronger during the Edo period, from 1603 to 1868. This was when Japan largely closed itself off from the outside world, and people focused on developing their own unique culture. Mount Fuji became a symbol of Japan itself, beautiful, powerful, and distinctly Japanese. During this time, climbing Mount Fuji became more organized. Religious groups called Fujiko formed to promote pilgrimages to the mountain. These groups built shrines along the climbing routes and established rules for proper behavior on the sacred slopes. They taught that climbing Fuji wasn't just about reaching the top, it was about purifying your soul through the difficult journey. The climb itself was intense and demanding. Pilgrims started their journey at one of several stations around the mountain's base, each marking a different stage of the spiritual journey. The traditional climbing season lasted from July to early September, when snow didn't cover the upper slopes and weather was most predictable. Even during these months, temperatures near the summit could drop below freezing, and sudden storms could trap climbers on the exposed mountainside. Climbers wore white clothing to symbolize purity and carried walking sticks that they marked with burned stamps at different stations along the route. These stamps proved they had completed each stage of the journey and served as spiritual souvenirs of their pilgrimage. Many people kept these walking sticks for the rest of their lives as reminders of their sacred journey. The eighth station, located at about 10,000 feet, was where many climbers spent the night before attempting the final push to the summit. Small huts provided basic shelter and food, though conditions were always rough. The thin air at this altitude made every step more difficult, and many pilgrims experienced headaches and nausea from the reduced oxygen. Those who made it to the top found a large crater at Mount Fuji's summit, about 1,600 feet across and 700 feet deep. Inside this crater, they could see smaller volcanic vents and feel the mountain's power firsthand. The view from the top stretched for hundreds of miles on clear days, showing the Pacific Ocean, the Japanese Alps, and the sprawling cities below. When Japan opened to the outside world in the 1850s, foreign visitors began writing about Mount Fuji, spreading its fame internationally. Western artists and photographers captured new images of the mountain, often focusing on its dramatic size and perfect shape. These images helped make Mount Fuji one of the first Japanese landmarks that people around the world could recognize. The development of railways in the late 1800s made Mount Fuji much more accessible to ordinary people. No longer did climbers need to walk for days just to reach the mountain's base. Trains brought thousands of visitors to the Fuji region, creating the first real tourist industry around the mountain. This easier access changed the nature of Mount Fuji climbing. While religious pilgrims still made the journey for spiritual reasons, many climbers now came simply for the challenge or the view. The mountain began attracting international visitors, including European and American tourists who wrote detailed accounts of their experiences for readers back home. During World War II, Mount Fuji took on new symbolic meaning for Japan. The mountain appeared on propaganda posters and military emblems, representing the strength and spirit of the Japanese people. After the war ended in 1945, Mount Fuji remained an important symbol, but now it represented peace and natural beauty rather than military power. The 1960s brought major changes to the Mount Fuji region. Japan's economic growth created millions of middle-class families with money to spend on travel and recreation. Mount Fuji became a popular destination for family trips and school excursions. New roads, hotels, and facilities made the area much more comfortable for visitors who weren't interested in the traditional challenging pilgrimage experience. However, this popularity created new problems. Thousands of climbers left trash on the mountain's slopes, and erosion from so many feet damaged the fragile volcanic landscape. The Japanese government had to implement new rules to protect Mount Fuji's environment while still allowing people to enjoy this natural wonder. Today, about 300,000 people climb Mount Fuji each year during the official climbing season from early July to mid-September. Most follow one of four main routes: Yoshida, Subashiri, Gotemba, and Fujinomiya. The Yoshida Trail is the most popular because it has the best facilities and the gentlest slope, though even this easy route takes most climbers 6 to 8 hours to reach the summit. Modern climbers face many of the same challenges as ancient pilgrims. The thin air, changing weather, and steep terrain still make Mount Fuji a serious undertaking. Altitude sickness affects many climbers, especially those who try to ascend too quickly. Mountain rescue teams regularly help people who underestimate the mountain's difficulty or get caught in sudden weather changes. The Japanese have a saying, "A wise man climbs Fuji once, a fool climbs it twice." This reflects the mountain's reputation as a challenging but rewarding experience that most people only need to do once in their lifetime. The physical difficulty of the climb, combined with the spiritual significance, makes reaching Mount Fuji's summit a memorable achievement for anyone who completes the journey. Scientists continue studying Mount Fuji because it remains an active volcano. While it hasn't erupted since 1707, geological surveys detect small earthquakes and gas emissions that show the mountain is still alive beneath its peaceful exterior. The Japan Meteorological Agency maintains constant monitoring equipment on and around Mount Fuji, watching for any signs that might indicate future volcanic activity. The 1707 eruption, known as the Hoei eruption, lasted for 16 days and covered a huge area with volcanic ash. Historical records describe how the ash blocked out the sun in nearby cities and made breathing difficult for people and animals. While no one died directly from the eruption, the ash ruined crops and caused serious economic problems for years afterward. Modern scientists estimate that Mount Fuji erupts roughly every 300 years, which means another eruption could happen sometime in the next century. The Japanese government has detailed evacuation plans for the millions of people who now live near the mountain, something that wasn't necessary in 1707 when the population was much smaller. Mount Fuji's cultural impact extends far beyond Japan's borders. The mountain appears in movies, books, and artwork around the world, often representing Japan itself. Its distinctive shape has become so recognizable that companies use Fuji-like triangles in their logos, and the mountain's name appears on everything from photography equipment to bottled water. The mountain gained even more international recognition in 2013 when UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site. This designation recognized Mount Fuji not just as a natural wonder, but as a cultural landscape that has inspired art, religion, and literature for over 1,000 years. The World Heritage status helps protect the mountain while acknowledging its importance to all humanity. Climate change is beginning to affect Mount Fuji in ways that concern scientists and local communities. Warmer temperatures are changing snow patterns on the mountain, affecting the water supply that millions of people depend on. The tree line is slowly moving higher up the mountain's slopes, and some plant and animal species are struggling to adapt to changing conditions. The mountain gained even more international recognition in 2013 when UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site. This designation recognized Mount Fuji not just as a natural wonder, but as a cultural landscape that has inspired art, religion, and literature for over 1,000 years. The World Heritage status helps protect the mountain while acknowledging its importance to all humanity. Climate change is beginning to affect Mount Fuji in ways that concern scientists and local communities. Warmer temperatures are changing snow patterns on the mountain, affecting the water supply that millions of people depend on. The tree line is slowly moving higher up the mountain's slopes, and some plant and animal species are struggling to adapt to changing conditions. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and don't forget to explore more geological wonders on our channel.